The title of Arthur Cheney Train's book, By Advice of Counsel, carries a double meaning that sets the stage for everything that follows. In a courtroom, counsel is the technical, procedural advice a lawyer gives to navigate the rules of the state. But in a broader sense, counsel refers to the moral guidance or wisdom we seek when we are trying to figure out how to live a good life. Train spends the book exploring the friction between these two worlds, the rigid technical application of the law and the fluid, often messy reality of human morality. The book isn't a single novel with one continuous plot. Instead, it's a series of interconnected vignettes, short stories that act as case studies. Through these stories, Train shows us that justice is rarely a simple search for the truth. Instead, it's often a contest of rhetoric, a battle of technical loopholes, and a reflection of the human capacity for empathy. We begin in the shadows of the legal machine with a boy named Tony Mathusek. Tony is an innocent boy in a red sweater who finds himself caught up in a case of mistaken identity. He's arrested for a crime he didn't commit, and this minor incident triggers a predatory cycle. This is where we meet Raphael Hogan, a lawyer who acts more like a human hyena than a seeker of justice. Hogan, along with his fixer Simpkins, realizes that Tony's impoverished mother is an easy target. They don't want to solve the case, they want to prolong it. They use endless legal delays and manufactured crises to milk the family for every cent they have. It's a chilling look at how the law, designed to protect the innocent, can be weaponized by those who know how to work its gears to exploit the vulnerable. It isn't until the senior partner of a major firm, Ephraim Tutt, decides to intervene that the cycle is finally broken, leading to a judicial investigation into the very corruption that the legal system is supposed to prevent. From this gritty urban corruption, the narrative shifts into something almost surreal. We find ourselves in a New York tenement, where a dispute involving a hidden camel leads to a murder trial. The victim is Sadi Babu, and the man accused of killing him is Gashid Hassan. This trial becomes a fascinating study in how truth is constructed in a courtroom. On one side, the prosecution presents what looks like perfect eyewitness testimony. They have witnesses who are certain of what they saw, creating a narrative that is logically sound and difficult to shake. On the other side, the defense attorney, Mr. Tutt, uses a mix of theatricality and deep cultural context to present a completely different reality. He challenges the reliability of the witnesses by showing how perception can be distorted by environment and expectation. The result is a hung jury. The actual truth of what happened in that tenement isn't discovered in the courtroom through the testimony of witnesses, but by a young boy who happened to be watching from a hiding spot. This scene highlights one of Train's most persistent themes, the idea that the truth presented in court is often just a performance of consistency, not necessarily the reality of the event. As the stories move from the tenements to the upper echelons of society, the scale of the moral dilemmas changes. We meet Althea Beekman, a socialite who finds herself at the center of a profound conflict between personal honor and legal duty. She meets a man named Shane O'Connell, who has committed a crime. He killed a political boss's son. He didn't do it for profit or out of malice. He did it in an act of tribal honor to avenge his sister. When Shane confesses the crime to Althea, she is thrust into a dilemma. Does her sense of personal honor and her responsibility toward a man in her service supersede her legal duty to testify? Althea chooses her conscience over the law. She refuses to testify, even though it means facing contempt of court and potential imprisonment. This brings us to the concept of the unwritten law, those ancient, deeply held codes of honor and tribalism that often run directly into the modern, codified legal system. In this instance, the law demands her testimony, but her moral compass demands her silence. Ultimately, a brilliant legal maneuver by Mr. Tutt secures Althea's release and ensures the defendant's acquittal, showing how the technical mastery of the law can sometimes be used to protect the human spirit from the rigidity of the statute. This tension between what is legal and what is right continues through a series of increasingly absurd situations. We see the Pumperly family being harassed by a relentless barrage of municipal summonses. These aren't major crimes, but trivial ones: an unmuzzled dog, the improper height of a garbage bin, minor zoning infractions. Through the Pumperlys, Train explores the distinction between what is wrong in itself, the things we instinctively know are immoral, and what is wrong because it is prohibited. These are the technical violations, the malum prohibitum. The book shows how hyper-regulation can be used as a tool for social vendettas, where people use the letter of the law to punish their neighbors for things that aren't actually sins, just administrative errors. It's a commentary on how the law can become a weapon of petty harassment when it loses sight of its higher purpose. The final major thread brings us to the trial of Danny Lowry. Danny is an elderly man, often viewed by society as a bit of a wastrel, who is arrested for practicing veterinary medicine without a license. His crime was simply helping a sick horse because he couldn't stand to see the animal suffer. The prosecution's case is built on the idea of professional competition. They argue that by practicing without a license, he is undermining the regulated standards of the profession. However, the defense attorney, Bentley, uses a brilliant logical paradox to win the case. He leans into the concept of privileged communication to create a sense of reasonable doubt. By navigating the technicalities of how professional advice is given and received, he manages to confuse the jury and move them. The jury, ultimately moved more by Danny Lowry's character and his obvious benevolence than by the technicalities of veterinary statutes, decides to acquit him. When we step back and look at the whole arc of the book, a clear picture emerges. Train isn't arguing that the law is useless, nor is he suggesting that we should ignore it. Instead, he's illustrating that justice is a deeply human, and therefore deeply fallible, process. The book suggests that the legal system is a machine, and like any machine, it can be manipulated, it can be used for good, and it can be used for devastatingly efficient evil. We see this in the way the lawyers exploit the Mathusek family, and we see it in the way the law is used to harass the Pumperleys. But we also see that the law is not a closed system. It is constantly being challenged by the unwritten laws of human honor, by the subjective nature of truth, and by the simple, unquantifiable power of empathy. Whether it's Althea Beekman choosing her conscience over a subpoena, or a jury choosing a kind old man over a strict regulation, the human element constantly leaks into the cracks of the legal code. In the end, By Advice of Counsel leaves us with the realization that justice is rarely a clean, mathematical equation. It is a messy, ongoing negotiation between the rules written on paper and the values we hold in our hearts. It is a contest of rhetoric and technical loopholes, but at its most successful, it is a reflection of our collective capacity to recognize the humanity in one another, even when the law itself might struggle to do so.